Let the people of God say amen. I want to ask that you would stand with me in reverence to the reading of God's holy word. And we find that word today in the Gospel according to John. The Gospel according to John chapter 12, beginning at verse 12 and concluding at verse 19 in the New International Version. John 12, beginning at verse 12, says, "The next day, the great crowd that had come for the festival heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, 'Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel.'" That's the statement that got him in trouble. Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt." At first, his disciples did not understand all of this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him and that these things had been done to him. Now the crowd that was with him when he called Lazarus from the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to spread the word. Many people, because they had heard that he had performed this sign, went out to meet him. So the Pharisees said to one another, "See, this is getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him." You may be seated in God's house. I'd like to tag this message in this particular text as we share together today for these brief moments that we have together with the title, "He Always Shows Up." He always shows up. As Alexander the Great was setting out on his conquest of Asia, he inquired into the finances of his followers. To ensure that they would not be troubled over the well-being of their dependents during their absence, he distributed the royal resources to them and to their families. When he had almost disposed of all of the royal assets, his friend the general asked Alexander, "Alexander, what did you reserve for yourself?" Alexander the Great looked at his general friend and he said, "Hope, sir. All I have left is hope." Palm Sunday is the close of the Lenten season, a season of self-denial and sacrifice, and it signals the beginning of Holy Week. This Sunday is filled with hope and the expectations of an impending liberation and salvation from the chilly hands of bondage and oppression. A major theme of Palm Sunday is this hope. Hope that the promises of God are still true. Hope that salvation is made available to everybody. Hope that there's still new mercy available. Hope that the power of God is still working in your favor. Palm Sunday is about hope. Hope that God will not leave creation to continue in the status quo. Hope that the power structures that keep people from fulfilling divine purpose will be defeated. Hope that the church will become a place for radical change in people's lives. Hope that oppressive policies and practices will be overthrown. Hope that our houses of worship will become more concerned with the kingdom of God than with who's preaching, who's singing, or who's dancing on Sunday morning. Hope that there's still people who do what they do and they do it in the name of the Lord. Hope that all is not lost. Hope that there's still power in prayer. Hope that there's help on the horizon. Hope that we're being saved. Palm Sunday is about hope. Hope, hope, hope. We need hope. We need hope today that there is a salvific component to our lives, because salvation, you do know, is the answer to life's deepest and darkest moments. We're not talking about the kind of salvation that is of the do-nothing sort, not talking about that salvation that you claim to have, but your actions and your attitudes are no indication of who rescued you. But we need to restore hope in the God of our salvation, hope in the Christ of our faith. Good church attendance is not synonymous with salvation. Let me say that again. Good church attendance, just because you come regularly, doesn't mean that you're going to be saved. It's not enough to just know scripture, not enough to know about God. We need to be saved. And sadly, the church has people in here who are working on everything except your soul salvation. You're working on material success. You're working on your status in society, working on your upward mobility, working on building your likes and your retweets on social media, working on being popular. Some of us are hard at working on nothing, but many of us, even in the church, are not working on our soul salvation. Oh, you working on each other's nerves, but you're not working on your soul's salvation. That's why so many of our children, so many of our citizens are living dejected, depressed lives. That's why folks are running to the pharmacist to get drugs and things and infusing their bodies with things that'll help them keep them from being depressed, because we started to prioritize personal wants rather than the divine imperative to love your neighbor as yourself. We prioritize individual ambitions over collective sacrifice. And here comes Palm Sunday with the audacity to remind us that our true hope rests in our salvation. Help me, Holy Ghost. It is the glue that links the unholy with the holy. Salvation connects time with eternity. It links the helpless with all of our help. It's the method that God uses to call us from darkness into the marvelous light of Jesus our Christ. And so Palm Sunday reminds us that we need to be saved. Saved from a divided mind and a confused spirit. Saved from a cold heart and a fragmented faith. Saved from negative speech. Saved from self-deprecating activities. Saved from a loveless life. Saved from a callous tongue. Saved from poverty and oppression, from depression and regression. Saved from your fear and your hopelessness. Saved from confusion and chaos. Saved from infighting and personal vendettas. And Palm Sunday ought to remind you that there's hope that you will be saved. And we must be encouraged that our strength, our survival is connected to our ability to be a whole body that is working together in unity. The word salvation means to be made whole or to be made healthy. And so if we are to survive, we must remember that our strength is in our ability to pool our resources and work together for a common goal. Our strength is in our ability to show compassion to folks that other people vilify. Our strength is in our ability to love people who have cursed us and show no regard for who we are. Our strength is in our ability to see more than meets the eye. Our strength is in our ability to do justly and love mercy. Our strength is in our ability to have mountain moving, obstacle shattering, hill climbing faith to get done what folks say you can't do. But in order to do any of that, the Palm Sunday message teaches us that we must be made whole. In the text, Jesus rides into Jerusalem on a donkey. On a donkey, he rides into Jerusalem. He didn't set up a GoFundMe page to get 65 million so he could get a jet to come into Jerusalem. Help me, Holy Ghost. He rides into Jerusalem on a donkey. Help me, Jesus. Interestingly, we like to think of this as a celebratory moment in Jesus' life, but Jesus was doing something radical. Antioch, Jerusalem, at this time was a dangerous place for Jesus because it is where his greatest opposition rested. In Jerusalem was where folks who despised his ministry were the most active. It is where the hate groups had support, where the Ku Klux Klan of Jesus' day had their most support. It is where the people who wanted to see Jesus convicted of treason had co-signers and other folks who supported their hatred of Jesus. Y'all know how we do. Some of us are cowards until we get one or two other people who support us in our craziness, and as soon as we get some support, we become bad, bold, and brazen. Then we tough now because I got two people with me. Jesus was going into dangerous, hostile territory. The folks there had been listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio and refusing to vote Loretta Lynch in as Attorney General. Jesus was bringing good news to the poor, but they were busy casting votes and litigating cases in hopes of denying millions of people the right to have health insurance. And they were looking for sneaky ways to keep people from going to the ballot box. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up Jerusalem and America. I apologize. Help me, help me. Help me, Jesus. Y'all pray for your pastor. Please pray for me. For Jesus, this was not the path of least resistance. This wasn't the path that would lead Jesus to glory, fame, and honor. That's the path we all want to go. We always want to ride down the path that's going to lead us to fame and glory and honor, but that wasn't the path that Jesus chose. This wasn't the path that led Jesus towards all of his supporters and the folks that he healed and blessed and touched, but this was a radical path, a loathsome path, a lonely path, but Jesus showed up anyhow. I like Jesus. And when he showed up riding on a donkey. Oh, he could have chosen a stallion. He could have gotten something a little more regal, but he shows up on a donkey. He shows up with purpose in his heart. He shows up to bless even his enemies. He showed up to tell the world, I'm not ever scared of you. He showed up, and so one of the prodigious promises of the palm is that no matter how powerful your pain, no matter how low he has to get down, no matter how high you think you are, Jesus will show up in your life. He'll show up in your car when you get in an accident. He'll show up in the operating room. He'll show up in the courtroom. He'll show up at the bank with you. He'll show up and direct your career path. Do I have any help in here that'll agree with me that Jesus will show up? Some of you in here got your own testimony about when Jesus showed up in your life. Is there anybody here that can remember that Jesus showed up in your life? You ought not have to look back too far, because as I look back over my life, I can recall some times when Jesus showed up. Has he showed up for anybody in here? I can't testify for you, but since I got the mic, I'm going to testify for myself. I remember when we had a fire in the house and everybody was asleep, but we all got out. Jesus had showed up. I remember when my mama had open heart surgery. Jesus showed up. When my grandmama and granddaddy passed away, Jesus showed up. When my nephew got shot, Jesus showed up. When my baby stopped breathing, Jesus showed up. I don't know, and you can't tell it like I tell it, but Jesus will. He'll show up. You got your own story, but I know without a shadow of a doubt, Jesus will show up. But the question that Jesus pushes me to raise in the text is, when Jesus shows up, how should I respond? When Jesus comes riding through your life, how should you respond? There are three answers, and I'm going to sit down. First, when Jesus shows up, you got to resist simply being religious. You got to resist simply being religious. It's going to make the church folks leave church today. The routine rudiments of religion are what brought many people to Jerusalem in the text. And religion is how you go from Hosanna one day to crucify him in just a few days. That's what religion leads you to. Religion is how your church attendance does not produce any discernible change in your attitude or in your activity. Don't tell me how long you've been in church if you're still the same surly person that you were when you first set foot in the church. Religion is why you think that it's all right for you to be mean and unforgiving without true transformation. Religion is how you believe that every message is for somebody else. You must resist simply being religious. Religion for the sake of religion is just routine, but religion can't redeem you, can't revive you, can't relieve you, can't regenerate you and can't reform your life. Religion doesn't save you, can't justify you, can't sanctify you, can't edify you, and religion can't glorify his name. You must resist the temptation to just be religious for religion's sake. On that day, Jesus rides in triumphantly, but there was a different reaction from the religious folks than from those who wanted to be redeemed. You see, there's a difference between the religious and the redeemed. For some, it was a moment of celebration and joy, but for others, only hatred and venom rose in their hearts. For some, it meant singing new songs, but for others, it meant building new walls to keep more people out. For some, it was a landmark occasion, the fulfillment of their dreams, the answer to their prayers, but for others, it was the work of the devil, and nothing good could come from this Jesus character riding into town. For some, your promotion means progress and joy, but for others, it means jealousy and envy. For some, your joy gives them joy, but for others, your joy makes them mad at you. For some, your perspective is welcomed, but for others, it makes them worried about who you are. Don't worry about religion. Just try being redeemed every once in a while. And if you're redeemed, guess what? Your religion will taste sweeter if you're redeemed. If you're redeemed, your life will be renewed. Resist simply being religious. For some in the church, growth and change means that the presence of the Spirit of the Lord is moving and working. But for others, it means that my place is being taken over by somebody else, some other that I don't know. For some, growth is a sign of progress and positive ministry, but for others, it's hard to digest, and it's an opportunity for them to resist. For some, it means more ministry and more opportunities, more innovative programming, cooperative economics. It means hope for possibility, but for others, it means diminished access, uncomfortable conditions, and unknown problems. It means I got to give up my seat, and I ain't willing to give up my seat in religion, but I'm willing to give it up if I've been redeemed. And the danger is that we hang around the naysayers too long. If you hang around the naysayers too long, if you let their voice be the loudest, then they might be able to influence some folks to come over to that other side. And so when Jesus shows up, you got to resist the routine to simply be religious. See, you must resist the temptation to be led by the loud crowd. Resist the temptation to be pessimistic. The word teaches us to resist the devil and he will flee from you. Resist the urge to be a part of the negative. Resist complaining about the insignificant, resist creating chaos and diversions. The crowd teaches us to resist just being religious. I believe your prayer every once in a while ought to be, Lord, help me to hold out. Help me to hold out hope. Help me to hold out peace. Help me to hold out faith. Hold out optimism. Hold out until change comes for all of us. The people who were in Jerusalem with expectation were there as a testimony that we're not going to be led by Rome. The fact that they were waving palms that day was telling the Roman government, we's with Jesus. The palm was a national symbol of Judea, and Rome saw waving palms as an act of defiance towards the government. But a few folks stood and they bowed and they waved their palms and said, I don't care what you say, Rome. I'm riding with Jesus. I'm trusting my Redeemer. I'm trusting the one that came through town on a donkey. Martin Luther said that a religion that gives nothing, costs nothing, and suffers nothing is worth nothing. They were resisting division and disunity. They were resisting trouble, stirring, and chaos creation. And they could resist for the same reason that you can resist. And it's because God is never asleep and is always aware of the ways of the wicked. I remember one time in high school, I went about my day normally as I would any other day. But the funny thing that happened was when I got home that night and I started talking to my dad. My dad was a guidance counselor at a high school across town, and my daddy told me, though, that day, he said, son, I saw you in class. Daddy, you supposed to be at work. How you see me in class? You didn't call me in sick today, Daddy. How? He said, son, I saw what you were doing. I saw who you were talking to. I saw you pretending to do some work. He said, I saw you even though you couldn't see me. He saw me, but I couldn't see him. And God just wanted me to remind you that you can resist the routine of religion, because even when you think you can't see God, even when you think that the wicked have more people on their side, that the religious have more people on their side, that the religious are winning, even when you can't understand how people could be so crazy and so mean, that the God that you serve can always see you. This church, guess what, Antioch? This church wasn't built on religion. Your life wasn't changed by religion. Your ministries aren't sustained by religion, but you are who you are. You have what you have and can do what you can do, all because God has always been with you. His invisible hand has always been looking after your life. He can see you when you don't feel him. He can see you when you get mad about what's going on. He can see you in the middle of your mess. He can see you, so you ought to tell him, I'm going to resist simply being religious in your name. But when Jesus shows up, you got to resist simply being religious. But secondly, you got to reflect on your responsibility. You got to reflect on your responsibility. Resist being religious, but then reflect on your responsibility. This ride into Jerusalem for Jesus was an opportunity for his supporters and his followers to reflect on their responsibility in God's redemptive plan. God isn't supposed to do all the work. It was a chance for them to search within themselves and determine what they really believed. And so we have the same responsibility to reflect, what do you really believe, Antioch? Do you really believe that he is and is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him? Do you really believe that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God? Do you really believe that he never leaves you alone? Your responsibility is to believe. And remember that the sign of your belief is in your activity. Belief is not simply a cerebral choice, but it is a transformational activity you need to reflect on if you believe. In Jerusalem, they didn't care if Jesus started a church. But what they did not want is him being the church. They didn't want Jesus infecting and affecting the culture, because it would have affected the bottom line of their economic situation. But the few folks that showed up that day, not simply as spectators, but showed up as agitators of the status quo, they believed Jesus' message of love and acceptance. They were trying to learn how to be who Jesus taught them to be. They weren't just trying to do what he told them to do. Too many of us are just doing because somebody told us to do. But what do you be? Bad English, but good theology. What do you be? If you believe, then your public speech about Jesus will result in public action for Jesus. You got to reflect. Reflect on how your presence as a believer in dangerous places can transform those places into places of hope and possibility. Reflect on how our ancestors were radical in their faith. Reflect on how God has brought you from a mighty long way. Reflect on the goodness and the mercy of our God. Reflect on our compassion towards the brokenhearted. Reflect on your dedication to the cause of Christ. And reflect on if your life has really been preaching the gospel. And the fact is that some people don't like to reflect because it causes you to look at the one person that you haven't held accountable, and that's yourself. Reflection requires that I look at me and see where I have fallen short. We good about telling other folks about their shortcomings and misgivings and things that they do wrong and things how right we are versus how wrong they are. But you got to look at yourself and see where I've not given my all. I have focused on the wrong stuff. See where I thought this thing was all about me. You're called to reflect. Reflection is painful. It's agonizing, but you're called to reflect on your responsibility. Reflect on the fact that you are not the power source. You're just an extension cord. By myself, I have no power, but if I'm connected, help me, Jesus, then God can use me to light up. I can be the vehicle God uses to light up a dark world. Reflect and use your privileges for the underprivileged. Use your advantages for the advancement of the disadvantaged. Reflect on your responsibility. Reflect on your responsibility, because the real truth that Freddie Haynes taught me is that you do know God has a perfect attendance record. God always handles his responsibility, but the question is, do you handle yours? God always shows up. In school, the way you check attendance as a teacher is by calling the name to determine if they're present or absent. Todd Davidson here, Leah Davidson here, Doris Adams Davidson here. And every now and then you might have a situation that would make you miss school, might make you miss class that day. But the good news of life is that the God that you serve has a perfect attendance record, regardless of the classroom of your situation. When you're reflecting on your responsibility, you'll realize that all you have to do is call his name and he'll always answer, here I am. Elohim, I need a creator here. I need a provider here. I need more than enough here. Y'all ain't feeling that Rock of Ages? He's here. Bread when I'm hungry here. Rose of Sharon here. Burden bearer here. Heavy load sharer here. He's going to show up. Make sure you reflect on your own responsibility. Let's try that another way. I don't know about you, but as a child, I hated getting shots. I despised them. So when I read this story, I had sympathy for this little boy. There were times when this little fella going to the doctor would be an all-out war between him and the nurses. When the kid was 7 years old, he walked pitifully into his pediatrician's office with bronchitis, and he had to get a penicillin shot. It was inevitable. He went crazy in the nurses' presence. After 3 nurses failed to restrain this 7-year-old boy, the doctor came back and calmly explained to the little fella why he needed a shot. She said, ingestion treatments, pills don't work fast enough, son. What you need is an injection with a needle, because it's sharp enough to break through the layers of your skin, and then it puts the medicine right where it needs to be. Stay with me. She told the mother said, she told the mother, a shot can get through the dead layer of skin in the epidermis, which is a thick layer of skin, and make it to a place called the dermis, where your blood and your nerves are. That's the place where you can feel it. That's where the medicine needs to go. And God had me say all of that to remind you that as you reflect, you'll see that there are times in your life when the word and the test of God might be painful for you. They might prick you and pierce you, but that's just God trying to get through the dead places in your life, trying to maneuver through the thick layers of your heart so that the word can ultimately get to the place where you can begin to feel it, not on your skin, but you need to feel the word down in your soul. And when Christ is in you, his medicine can begin his healing work. So don't you worry about the pain. Just reflect on your responsibility. Don't be distracted by the problem. Just reflect on your responsibility. Reflect on prioritizing your purpose over your pleasure, your holiness over your hidden agenda. Prioritize his word over your weakness, because Jesus always shows up. You're responsible for spreading hope all over the world. You must help love defeat hatred. Help folks see that mercy is available. The folks in Jerusalem that were there with Jesus had decided that no matter what hell we would go through, they were there and responsible for letting the world know that Jesus is real, and he's real to me. And so you've got the same same calling that I'm with Jesus. Because with Jesus, love must be your leadership. With Jesus, go help the helpless. With Jesus, give hope to the hopeless. With Jesus, do justly and love mercy. With Jesus, the wounded get healed, the broken get blessed, and the old becomes new. Somebody shout, reflect, reflect. You got to reflect. I'm done. After this, you got to reflect on your responsibility. Resist simply being religious. But third and finally, when Jesus shows up, you got to be ready to roll with Jesus. I'm done. Jesus came into town riding on a donkey. He didn't stay there, but came through as a sign to all of the people that it's time to roll. Time to roll. I know the language is foreign to some. But to roll means to go forward, to change your place, to go to an intended destination. And let's roll, let's roll, let's roll. Jesus was telling all of his followers that day, let's roll, take up your cross and let's roll, and we can change the world together. And so Jesus shares with you the same message today. In Antioch, that message is let's roll. If you roll with Jesus and roll like Jesus, then the church will find some power. We'll find power to live and to heal, power to work, to witness, to love, power to lift, to preach and to pray, power to prophesy, to sing and to shout, power to praise and to worship. When you roll with Jesus, you get power. When you roll with Jesus, you understand that God acts not out of chronos, that's man's time, but God acts out of kairos, that's God's time. God always does the right thing, and he does it at the right time. When you roll with Jesus, since he is the word, then it is the word that will sustain your life. I got to park there for just a moment. When you're wrestling with life, see, some of you don't pick your Bible up until you come to church on Sunday. Help me, Jesus. I told deacons I'm going to need a lot of help in the back today. When you're rolling, when you're wrestling with life, because some of you don't pick it up, it's still, when you open it, it closes real quick because you don't open it enough to break the bridge on the book. So I see you. And some of you even downloaded a Bible app that'll send you messages with a scripture on it. You don't even read those when they come up. First thing we read in the morning is the paper, not the word. When you get up, do you say, good morning, God? Or do you just start doing what you do and living how you live? But because you don't crack open the word, understand this, that when you're wrestling with life, you don't always have time to say, hold on, life's problems. Let me run and go get my Bible. You ain't got time sometimes to go get that tract that somebody gave you that you stuck somewhere in your car that's in the crack of your seat down with the pennies and the nickels that fall out your pocket. You can't tell life's problems that. Hell in your life doesn't wait for you to go get your Bible and try to find, back in the concordance, I'm dealing with pain. Where's pain? I got to find all the scriptures that's dealing with pain. Can I find something that deal with pain? I'm lonely. Where can I find? I need a friend. In the scriptures in here about friend. Then you figure out you ain't even got a Bible with a concordance in the back. Help me, Jesus. Help me. But so you ain't got time always to go pick up your Bible, but you got to get some word down in your soul that will help you to keep on standing. You got to have some word. If you're rolling with Jesus, Jesus ought to so saturate your life that when you walk in the door, wherever you go, people ought to say, man, you've been to church this morning. It could be Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. Somebody ought to look at you, man, look, you've been to church. It ain't because what you got on, not because you got on a necktie or a nice suit or a nice outfit, but you ought to see somebody and they ought to see something in you that makes them think you've been to church that day. Ralph West reminded me that if you've ever hugged somebody that has on cologne or perfume in church, you know that when you leave them, you have a little of the aromatics, whether you like them or not, from their choice of fragrance on your It may not be your favorite fragrance, but it gets on your clothes, doesn't it? You can smell them in your car when you get in the queue. You say, man, I didn't put that on. Somebody else has hugged me. You can smell them at your house, and that's what rolling with Jesus ought to make you feel about your relationship with him. Folks ought to be able to say, it ain't what you got on the outside, but I smell something. Help me, Help me, Holy Ghost. I smell a fragrance. I smell a presence that permeates the atmosphere because something is all over your life. There's a scent, a trail that lets me know that you've got an authentic relationship with Jesus the Christ. If you're rolling out with Jesus, your spiritual fragrance ought to take over at your job. It ought to take over at your house. It ought to take over wherever you go, and whatever you do, let's roll with Jesus. Jesus came rolling into Jerusalem with an announcement, and his announcement was, it's time. It's time for the crooked to get straight. It's time for the left out to get loved in. It's time for the hopeless to get hope. It's time for the cold-hearted to be warmed over. It's time for the plan of God to be fulfilled in your life. It's time for the last to be first. Somebody shout time. It's time to pray as if it all depends on God. It's time, though, to work as if it all depends on you. It's time to become a genuine community. It's time to move past petty bickering and backbiting with each other. It's time to step into the sunlight that God has prepared for you. It's time to teach our children that the sacrifices we make today ensure their futures tomorrow. It's time for you to put your trust all the way in God. It's time for you to walk by faith and not by sight. It's time for you to impact your environment. It's time for you to give yourself over to something bigger than you. It's time for us to roll together, to work together, to sing together, to shout together, to praise together, and to plan together. It's time for us to roll with Jesus. We got to get out of here, but it's still time. And the greatest power you get when you roll with Jesus is the power to speak the wonderful works of God. Is there anybody in the house who can testify about the wonderful works of God? Y'all ain't feeling that yet. Do I have a few friends who can tell somebody about the wonderful works of God? Well, if you can't tell it, then let me tell it. Come here, H. Beecher Hicks. He woke me up this morning. That's a wonderful work. He always shows up. That's a wonderful work. He started me on my way. That's a wonderful work. Put food on my table. A wonderful work. Put clothes on my body. A wonderful work. Little money in my pocket. A wonderful work. Got peace in my body. A wonderful work. I know it's old school, but I gotta tell it anyhow. He's my doctor in a sick room. A wonderful work. He's my lawyer in the courtroom. A wonderful work. He's a friend when I'm lonely. A wonderful work. He's my way and my way maker. A wonderful work. Is there anybody here that can testify to the wonderful works of God? Jesus came through 42 generations. A wonderful work. He was born in a manger. A wonderful work. No room in the inn. A wonderful work. Rode on a donkey. A wonderful work. Was convicted in court. A wonderful work. He died on a Friday. A wonderful work. In the grave on Saturday. A wonderful work. But early, and I mean early, on Sunday morning, he got up with all power. A wonderful work. Is there a witness in here who can shout? Shout yes. That's a wonderful work. And be careful, because when you roll with Jesus, he'll make you do some crazy stuff. What you talking about, crazy preacher? He'll make you laugh when ain't nobody joking. He'll make you cry when nobody pinched you. He'll make you shout when nobody will shout with you. He'll make you dance when folks tell you sit down. He'll make you run when nobody's chasing you. He'll make you preach when you got no sermon. He'll make you sing when you can't hold a note. He'll make you do some crazy stuff. So if you roll with Jesus, then you must be willing to be crazy. Roll with Jesus because he always shows up. Be not dismayed. He always shows up. Whatever be tired, he always shows up. God will. Yes, he will. He'll take care of you because he always shows. He always shows up. Always. He always, stand with me, all over God's house. Be not dismayed. Would e'er be tired. Palm Sunday reminds you that he always shows up. Resist the temptation to simply be religious. Resist the temptation to just do this because of what you were told. What do you believe? Reflect on your responsibility and let's roll with Jesus. Let's roll with Jesus. Father God, we thank you today for always showing up. And today, God, there may be someone here today who showed up, and now you've shown up for them. And if you're here, God, and